Welcome to Southorpe Meadows, or Meadow, I think it's Meadows. It's wet, it's been raining for about the last 3 hours. I think I've got about a 2-hour window, so I've dived down here to make the annual visit, and I'm already soaked, and it's wellies, and I'm still soaked above the wellies. It's that long here, the grass. But the good thing is the orchids are long here, they're tall, they're big, they're used to this, so the long grass isn't going to put them off. So it's going to be the usual common spotted, southern marsh, everything in between. I'll try and look at them with a fresher eye this time, having sort of learned from the mistakes of Kenfig really, and the advice that people have given me after visiting Kenfig with hybrids. So I will look at them with a fresh eye, but otherwise it's going to be the same intriguing, interesting and frustrating collection of orchids for sure. Let's get cracking on with it. I mean, this is a proper orchid. I mean, no messing around. This is what, 3 foot tall, 2.5, 3 foot tall. They're monsters in this site. It's always great to see them, how orchids should be. Spotty leaves on the face of it, common spotted, southern marsh grandis hybrid, and yes, it's got loops on it as well, so I should be taking this in as I go around to see what the significance of those loops might be here. But at the moment that's a grandis hybrid, and I'll leave it at that. Usually impressive numbers here, impressive numbers of impressive sized orchids. Spotty leaves, make what you want of it. Common spotted orchid, why not? Another nice common spotted. These got to be first generation grandis hybrids. They're very, very big, very, very stout, probably brother and sister. Spotty leaves, quite happy to call that a kernerorum hybrid. Early marsh, common spotted. I meant to mention on the way in actually that again I was looking at some old newspaper reports from the newspaper archive last night that showed that this site, and I think I've mentioned this in previous years, this site was a hybrid swarm nearly 100 years ago. Southern marsh, common spotted, early marsh. You know, it made me think last night there's probably hardly a plant in this meadow, and there are hundreds if not thousands in here. There probably is hardly any plants in here that don't have some influence during that time from all 3 of those, or any 2 of those. You know, just about every plant in here seems to have looped markings. I can't go around calling them all kernerorums or wintonii. They maybe were once and have crossed back, and that's the key. These have crossed back against other plants since the hybridization, and you've got a complete conglomeration, mess, call it what you like, of influences. So I'm not going to get too heavy on that is a definite, this is a definite. Some of them are definites, you can pick them out. The rest, you know, they could be a mix of anything of those 3 really. So it's still fun, but always frustrating, but you put your own names on them. The first of those somewhat unique, but there's plenty of them in this field, but unique in terms of not seeing this anywhere else. I mean, this is in effect, this is a wintonii hybrid. This is southern marsh and early marsh. The early marsh is there in terms of the curling of the flowers back, which I just don't see anywhere else, but you've still got the 2 loop markings on it as well. Paint that a different colour, it's a classic early marsh orchid, but this is mixed with southern marsh. I don't think there's any common spotted involved, there's no spots on the leaves. It is simply a wintonii hybrid, but in a different form to the wintonii hybrid you would normally see, and they don't appear in textbooks either. Well, they do without the curling back, but the curling back makes these quite unique to me. Respect to these two, standing up for the we are common spotted and no one mixes with us school, because these are common spotted, purely common spotted. Spotty leaves, and another big monstrous grandis hybrid, probably first generation, growing this big hybrid vigour that you tend to get with the first season of the hybrid. Different colouring, but another classic wintonii, Southern Marsh, early Marsh, without a doubt. The loop markings on this are less prominent, but you can't argue with the curling back of the leaves. The loops are there. You just got to look a bit closer. I'm seriously impressed with these monster grandis hybrids. They're really on top form. I'm assuming they're all first generation because they are just so big. Total clonkers these are. That is an absolute belter. An absolute belter. What fantastic markings, and so untypical. It's a Southern Marsh Orchid, there's no markings on the leaves. It's a Southern Marsh Orchid. Anywhere else in a country you'd start whispering, you know, heath spotted orchid influence, but there's no heath spotteds around here. It's just a fantastic variant of Southern Marsh Orchid, which is a very variable plant. Very nice. Lovely numbers here today. Beautiful orchids these are. I mean, all three of these are grandis hybrids. They're all spotty leaves. There's a huge group of them here really. Probably about 20 or 30, and I think they're nearly all grandis. That one is not. No spots on the leaves. It's another wonderfully marked Southern Marsh Orchid. In theory the spots run down the centre of the flower, down the throat, but not to the edges, but they make their own rules up here. It is a Southern Marsh Orchid, and a very nice one. Another of these ultra spotted Southern Marsh Orchid. I quite like these. Another of these orchids, you could paint this a different colour and say it's just a bog standard early Marsh Orchid, but it isn't. It's a Southern Marsh, early Marsh cross, wintonii hybrid. I mean, the loops are there. I've just had a close look. They're faint, but they're there, but that rolling back of the flower makes it very obvious. That's another absolute belter. A pale form of the ultra spotty form of Southern Marsh Orchid. Beautiful. There's another one next door that's just about as good as well. If I can get through the long grass. That's another belter. If that wasn't enough, that's a 9 out of 10 at least. Yeah, beautiful Southern Marsh Orchids, pale, spotty. That's nice as well. That is actually a common spotted orchid. Rootstock or leaf stock, if you like, the spots all over the leaves. That's common spotted, but it's got loops on it, significant loops on it, as well as being slightly bizarre colour for a common spotted, but it's definitely got loops on there. That's a kernerorum, a very nice one. That's very nice. Nice colour scheme, spotty leaves, kernerorum. Very nice. Another wonderfully spotted southern marsh orchid. Heavily spotted leaves. Should be a common spotted. I mean, there are a number of people out there, whenever I say that's a kernerorum, they say no, it's just a common spotted. But you know, you can't argue. There's two very bold loops on the front there with a spot in. You know, common spotties don't look like that. You know, they'd have other markings going on. You know, only early marsh orchid limits itself to those two loops, and that's why this is a kernerorum, whether people like it or not. I'm sticking with it. When you get that much marking on a leaf, you know this is a plant with shed loads of pigmentation. You know the flower is going to be pretty bright. If that had been a rhodocilla, there'd be no green on it at all. It would just be completely dark. So you know this is going to be a loud one, and it is. It's a grandis hybrid. Ultra spotty southern marsh, another absolute belter, really nice. Common spotted orchid, I can't see any reason not to call it a common spotted. Spotty leaves, common spotted markings, happy with that. There's a pair of Southorpe Meadow ultra spotty southern marsh orchids. But next to it is an offspring which undoubtedly had a parent that was an ultra spotty, as you can see, and wedged in the middle of the ultra spots is a common spotted marking. It's got spotty leaves unlike the two we saw a few seconds ago, so that's a grandis hybrid. Sorry, I keep putting these up, but always been a heath spotted orchid fan because I love these pretty, sort of girly, very spotty flowers. This isn't a heath spotted orchid, this is a southern marsh orchid, doing a good impression of a heath spotted orchid. I probably even prefer these. There's more colour in them than your average heath spotted. I'm really enjoying these today, there's a lot of them here. I don't know if this is a good example or not, but I had to stop just to grab this little one because it is kind of, in fact I would say it is a standard stereotypical straight down the middle southern marsh orchid, as a southern marsh orchid should be. It's got a light coloured throat, almost a ridge going down the middle of it, and you've got a very small number of spots that run down that ridge. You haven't got spots on the outer sides of the lobes. It's quite clean and the colour is right, and that's what a southern marsh orchid in the textbook looks like. So when you see those ultra spotty ones, you could see just what a difference they are here. It seems to be certainly this season, a Southorpe Meadow popular colour form. Another wonderful orchid, and you know, going on what we've seen so far, ultra spotty southern marsh, but it isn't because it's got spots on the leaves. There are markings towards the middle of it that aren't spots. I suppose you could get away with it, but it's a grandis hybrid. We have an ultra spotty grandis hybrid. I think the southern marsh parent was an ultra spotty form. Very nice though. Grandis hybrid. Lovely markings. In case you're wondering, because I'm not really showing too many of these this year, there are hundreds of these, if not more, mid-hundreds. Curled back leaves. If you get up close as I've done, you can distinctly see the early marsh orchid loops on there, as well as the curling back, which is typical early marsh. But it's definitely got southern marsh in there. It's a southern marsh flower. If I was to flatten it with my finger, take the curling away, it would look like a southern marsh orchid with loops on. So it's a Southorpe Meadow wintonii hybrid. Be interested if you find anything like this on any other site, because on my travels I never find any that look like this. Somebody messaged me last year, and I'm always listening to opinions. It's how you learn in this game, but they said they felt these were not hybrids, these were just forms of Southern Marsh Orchid, because it's such a variable dactylorizer, and it is. But you know, there's variations and there's variations. I mean, the flowers on this are so curled up, you can hardly see them near the bottom. I mean, Southern Marsh Orchids do not do that, full stop. They just don't do that, or at least if they do, I can't find anyone else who's found Southern Marsh Orchids doing this. It's been caused by something else, and that something else is an early Marsh Orchid. Could have been years ago, decades ago. I mean, there are loop markings on these. It's quite hard to pick them out, unfortunately, at that angle, but towards the top there are loop markings on there, but they're faint. But there's no way that is a Southern Marsh Orchid, that is a hybrid. Wintonii hybrid. Spotty leaves. I mean, I would call that a kernerorum. It's got early Marsh Orchid in it because it's got loops on there, but it's quite a messy flower. There's a few markings dotted around. There's even some faint markings on the outer lobes. If someone come back and vehemently said that's actually a common spotted orchid, apart from the fact it's too tall to be a common spotted orchid on this site, but I wouldn't argue with them. But it's a kernerorum as far as I'm concerned. Another wonderful set of spotty leaves, and a glorious flower head in which you can see pretty classic common spotted orchid markings, but the whole palette is Southern Marsh. It's a grandis hybrid for certain. More spots. Grandis hybrid, I mean, some people say, oh look, loops, but they're the same sort of loops you would get on a common spotted orchid, with plenty of others going on. It's loops within loops, it's common spotted, so that's a grandis hybrid. Not a common spotted orchid. There's no separation in the lobes at the bottom. It's a Southern Marsh Orchid shaped flower with common spotted orchid markings on it. Note the spotty leaves on this one. I was going to say I've been looking for one of these, but I'm not totally convinced this is a good example. But spotty leaves, so we can say with great assurance common spotted is in this plant, is in this flower. Now, is that a Southern Marsh? I mean, it's a Southern Marsh palette. You can get that colour on common spotted, so this is why I think it's not a great example, but it's definitely rolled back on those flowers, which is early Marsh. So I was going to say it's an example of the infamous three-way hybrid, where you've got early Marsh, common spotted and Southern Marsh. I'm not totally sure. The bit I'm not sure about is the Southern Marsh. But it could be. It could be. There could be elements of three dactylorizers in there. I'll try and find a better example. They're coming. Pyramidal Orchids. I always think it's a bit unfair for me to have a dislike for these, but I do have a dislike for pyramidals because they remind me of the end of the orchid season and I don't want to see them. But they've been around for a couple of weeks now and they're moving fast. There'll come a point in time when I'm glad to see them because there's nothing else, but at the moment I don't really want to see them. It reminds me of the end. Lovely pale pink coloured kernerorum hybrid here, spotty leaves. And that colouring can only have come from an early Marsh, I would have said. It still retains its colouring in there. Okay, we've got a mystery here. Always good to have a mystery. This is very richly coloured, very, very richly coloured. There's no spots on the leaves, but there are pretty distinct, in fact the flowers at the top in particular, very distinct sac markings. So you can tick the box that says early Marsh Orchid. There's no spots on the leaves, so it can only be a wintonii hybrid, Southern Marsh to early Marsh, neither of whom would normally have this colour, although Southern Marsh can, because Southern Marsh can do vibrant purple, and this must be a hybrid where one of the parents was a vivid purple Southern Marsh Orchid, but it's a wintonii. Grandis hybrid, spotty leaves, common spotted markings in the middle of a load of spots. Grandis hybrid. Here's a bit of homework for you, spotty leaves. Very rolled back flowers. I did flatten one out, it's kind of got loopish markings on, but it's purple, Southern Marsh-ish in colour. Could be a three-way hybrid. I think again the question mark is where's the Southern Marsh, and I'm only going on colour and that's not particularly strong. The stem is not hollow. It looks like it probably is common spotted with a bit of early Marsh in. And the early Marsh being the rolled back flowers. And if something else is causing the rolled back flowers on this site and it's not early Marsh, and it kind of blows it all out the window for me. I don't know if you can see that central flower pointing straight at us. I flattened that out with my fingers. It was curled because I wanted to see what the leaf looked like. Now if I saw that, I would say Southern Marsh. It's purple. It's got quite a broad white throat within which all the spots are. That's Southern Marsh Orchid. It's got spotted leaves, so there's common spotted in there, and you know, those rolled back flowers can't be anything other than early Marsh influence, or can they? Is there something else? Something I just don't understand that's causing these leaves to roll back like that. Lovely big Grandis hybrid, no messing with that one. Common spotted orchid, but you can see how close, because I mean they got loops on with spots in here, but there's no colour in the flower, which, you know, I'm struggling to see that as anything other than a common spotted orchid, but that actually could be a kernerorum. That's one I wouldn't want to call. What an absolutely stunning family group. That is breathtaking. 5 stalks, massive patterning on that. They're all Grandis hybrids. Superb. That's a cute little group down there, begging for their photo to be taken. That is a wonderful, fresh family group of common spotted orchids. No hybrids, no complications, just a very happy group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 common spotted orchids. Good on you. These are the ones that sort of confuse me most, because I could be getting these completely wrong. Spotted leaves, you know, the flower markings easily could be common spotted, and I tend to go on this colour palette and think, yeah, but there's colour in here that would say Southern Marsh, so is that a good enough excuse to say it's a Grandis hybrid? Probably not. However, there are often other factors, and one of them is the stem. I've given that a gentle squeeze, and I can assure you that is hollow, which means there's a Marsh orchid in there, because common spotteds don't generally have hollow stems. They have thinner woody stems, so there's Southern Marsh in that. The spots on the leaves, it's a Grandis hybrid. Great fun. Another one where you could just go on the markings and say common spotty because it's got spotty leaves, but again the stem's hollow, so I know that's a grandis hybrid. Another lovely family group of grandis hybrids once again. 4 stalks of a similar height. Very nice. Lovely markings on that one. Grandis hybrid, but sometimes they go to the max when it comes to markings, and this one has. Really nice. And it certainly has plenty of competitors nearby that reckon they're even more fancy, including this one. That's a belter, especially near the top where there's still a lot of red in them. Lovely. I'll let this one take the gold medal award for the best grandis hybrid in this very competitive patch. That is a belter. This guy's put in a complaint that he was far better. Can't really argue, to be honest with you. That is a belter. Grandis hybrid, of course. Common spotted orchid. On the face of it, spotty leaves. I don't think the loops are distinctive enough in terms of single pair of loops. There's no way that's a single pair of loops. There's much more going on. So the patterns are consistent with common spotted. You know, the palette colour is purple. I'm going to check the stem because I don't think that's hollow. It's actually a little bit hollow. So I think there could be some distant Southern Marsh input to that one. But I don't know, it's one of those, we don't know. Lovely orchid though. That's an ultra spotty grandis hybrid. One of the parents must have been one of those ultra spotty Southern Marsh orchids, for sure. It's got a hollow stem, spotty leaves. How good is that? Grandis hybrid, beautiful plant, beautiful orchid. I'm at the last corner of the field now. We're coming to an end, but they're really going out with a bang. It's one of these almost red marked grandis hybrids. Real pigmentation overload on that. I tell you, they're not going to let me go from this place. As soon as I think that's it, I'm going home for my lunch, they throw up another of these fantastic grandis hybrids. I don't think I've seen a better collection of grandis hybrids at one site than what you get here. Even compared with Wansford, you know, it's just absolutely brilliant. Right, I've promised myself this is the last shot from Southorpe Meadow. A pair of teenage grandis hybrids. Very nice. Brilliant. Southorpe Meadow at its best. I would say it's probably 10% past its peak now, so if you want to come down and see these, you probably need to get moving. They won't take long now before they vanish. There's a lot of them at their peak, but there's quite a few that have gone over, some completely gone over, but brilliant. Big in your face orchids. There's no pale stuff here. There's no namby-pamby stuff. This stuff almost literally hits you in the face. And great fun. And do get down here and have a go. See what you think, because I'm always open to opinions on this sort of stuff. I don't know what they are. I don't suppose anyone knows what some of them are, but I've tried to use logic. Some of it learned at Kenfig to work out some of them, but They are fantastic, absolutely fantastic orchids. It's a fantastic site. Things happen here that don't happen anywhere else, is all I'll say. And I don't think in my lifetime I'll ever work it out. So yeah, great, really enjoyed that. I'm going to have to get off because I hear thunder. I think the rains are coming back again. I'm sure the orchids will be chuffed by that. This was the penultimate trip out this summer, sadly. I only have one left, and that's either tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to the Barton Hills. It's going to be my big wow factor site because it's been a good season. I've enjoyed it, but I've not had any sort of stop me in my tracks. Oh my God, what is that? With the odd swear word added in. I've not had any of those yet, which I suppose as time goes by there's going to be fewer and fewer of those because I've seen most things before. But yeah, I'm confident Barton Hills is going to come up with something big. I'll talk to you more when I get there. That will be sadly the last summer orchid trip. It'll be Hellebrines after that in a few weeks' time, and autumn ladies' tresses and all that nonsense, and then Christmas and whatever. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do share your comments if you think I'm talking garbage, which is highly likely, and let us know what you think, and I'll see you at Barton Hills.